Hey, I want to welcome you back to Beyond the Message, where we're continuing the discussion today with Kate Downing, and we're going to be talking about your sermon on Sunday, Fighting with Fear, which is based on your brand new book, right?
Yes, which I'm really excited about. So we just got the opportunity to publish a book called Fighting with Fear. It's a Bible study on the first 6 chapters of Nehemiah, and there's nothing I'm more passionate about right now than that.
I would imagine so. And I love Nehemiah. A few weeks ago when the campus pastors preached on Nehemiah, I love the book of Nehemiah.
So
it was one of the first books of the Bible I actually heard somebody preach through. I'd never heard someone preach through a book in my life. And Nehemiah and Mark were the first two. And those two keep coming up this year. So I love it. So how exciting was it to take this passion that you have for this and put it down onto paper and then get it published and now, introduce it to the public?
Yeah. Well, I keep joking that I've never had a baby, but I feel a little like I've had a baby, and I keep walking around being like, do you like my baby? Do you think my baby is cool? Do you want to read my baby?
So have you held a book up at 1 month old?
I know. Truly, I really have. I do kind of feel like it is my child, but it's just been such a sweet journey of learning about the fear of God and learning how it is our greatest weapon against every other fear that we face is really kind of the idea behind it. And we see that through the life of Nehemiah, how he battled fear, but not with his own will, not with like white knuckling his way through it, but he battled fear with the fear of God. And so it's just such a powerful, big thing, but it has been so fun to get to study and to think about and to learn about and write about.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, congratulations.
Thank
I know
you.
It's got to be an exciting thing. I think it is like a baby.
Thank you.
I get it. So, on Sunday you talked about God's incredible generosity of how he gave us his son, Jesus, the most valuable gift ever given. Yeah. And that if he will give us that, then there's nothing else that measures up to Jesus. So, we should be ready to ask him for other things, knowing that he's willing to be generous. But sometimes, as you said, Sunday, God is withholding things from us. And it's very easy for us to shift our focus from trusting him to getting frustrated and things like that. So how do we not do that? How do we keep our focus on his timing and trusting him and his love and grace and things like that?
Man, what a big concept. I think this whole idea of scarcity and really the fear of scarcity, which is this whole concept this lie that tells us that God is withholding something good from me. And really what that is a misunderstanding of the character of God. To believe that he's a God who just sits around saying, well, nanny, nanny, boo, boo, sorry, you don't get that. But that he's a God who thousands of years ago, long before, you or I were born, he gave his own son to die on a cross for our sins, to be the payment for our mess ups, our sin, the things that have separated us from God, that God generously displayed his love in that. Right. And so when I begin to hear the lies of the fear of scarcity, I have to go back to, okay, but what is truth? And what is true, what is never changing is the character of God. Right. And he is not just a providing God. We sing like Jehovah Jireh, like the God who provides. Yes. So we love that. It's so cool. But he's not just a providing God. He's a generously providing God. He provides exceedingly and abundantly above what we could ask for or imagine. And so anyway, the thing that I would always kind of come back to is recognizing that lie of scarcity, that God's withholding something, and going back to the truth, taking my thoughts captive, going back to what is true, that God is a generous God.
I think Chip Ingram did a book called Real God, and it was really a commentary on A.W. Tozer's The Attributes of God.
Oh, yeah.
It was just easier to read. But the thing that he said is what we think about God, not what God thinks about us. What we think about God determines how we live every day.
Yeah, that's a great word.
And so knowing the truth about God is going to dictate how I respond to how things go. My son, he's getting ready to move off to grad school and he is my baby. He's 22. It's just like, oh, I'm not ready for this. And we're still 9 months away and I'm already dreading it. So, but I always tell him, I said, look, I'm always going to be the dad you need me to be. Yeah. Maybe not the dad you want me to be. And I remember when I was 22 thinking that my parents, man, you're just mean. You don't let me do this. I'm 22 years old and you're still checking up on me. Yeah. But now I realize the things they were teaching me then, I'm teaching my son now and have been for 22 years. And that's the way God is. We have to trust that, man, he does know what's best for us. I said one time, I told some people, I said, listen, God's will is what we would want if we knew what God knows.
That's a great way to say that. Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier, that Nehemiah, again, what the study's kind of all about, and what we talked about on Sunday, that earlier on in Nehemiah, he prays a prayer to God where he calls God the awe-inspiring God, which that word awe means this fear-inspiring God. And he says that he is the Lord of the heavens. He's God of the heavens, meaning that he is seated enthroned above the heavens, that his perspective is so much bigger than our perspective. He sees, I just love that, even that picture, like he sees much more than we see. And so when it comes to this idea of scarcity, is God withholding something from me? His perspective is so much greater than mine.
Yes.
So his definition of good might be different than mine. Anyway, but I love that perspective, that the Lord is so much greater. He is the God of the heavens. So when I can set my mind on that, it helps me understand a little bit more of maybe why God isn't doing or answering or giving me what I think I need.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the scarcity, the scarcity of God, when he's withholding things, when God's generosity doesn't meet our expectations, it is very easy for us to become frustrated and aggravated with God. And so in your own life, what has helped you remain patient and waiting on God's timing and his plan rather than chasing after compromise or greed?
Yeah, which is so easy to get stuck in. I think one of the best things that I have learned, and I teach this to students a lot, we teach this to friends a lot, but it's this process called the RCR. So go with me here for a minute, but it's recognize, confess, replace. And it comes out of Paul talking in Corinthians where he says, take every thought captive, making it obedient to Christ, that we are to take every thought that rolls around in our brain captive. So we're to recognize what our thoughts are. Are these lies about who God is? Are these misunderstandings about his character? What's this thought in my brain? If it doesn't fit through what I like to call the Philippians 4:8 filter, you can do your own study on that later, but Philippians 4:8, a great passage. If it's not true, basically, I confess that before the Lord. So I recognize it, I confess it, and then I replace it. Okay, what is true about the character of God? What is true about who he says I am as a son or a daughter of him? And so that for me has been a very practical tool when I start to go to compromise or I start to go to greed. And really what that is trying to control the situation. Is to say, okay, what lie am I believing? Let me confess that before the Lord. Let me replace that with what is true about who God is.
Yeah, that's so good. You know, one of the verses over the last couple of months I've been memorizing and just really trying to think through is Isaiah 30:18. It says, God longs to be gracious to you, and he will rise up and show himself compassionate. Yeah. And so a few things that I really have settled in my heart is, if God longs to be gracious to me, that means he already is. Yeah. He's already being gracious to me, and I may not be able to see it. I may not be able to understand it. And the plan he has for me may be something that I just absolutely hate at the time because I can't see the bigger picture. But if I know he longs to be gracious and he longs to be compassionate and he wants to rise up and prove himself to me, then he's already doing it. Yeah. And I need to look to see it. I remember a guy, his name was Ed Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
And just this, he did the tape ministry at a church, and just this great servant. And he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And he'd go out to St. Francis for his treatments and everything. And afterward, the cancer was gone. He was cured of cancer. The treatment worked. But he told me, he says, Pastor, he says, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting cancer. And I said, why? Why would you say it? He goes, when I was there, I got to meet all these people. And now I've been cancer-free for months, but I go out there every Tuesday and I play dominoes and checkers and cards. We do crossword puzzles. I read books to it with some of them because the chemo they can't see is clear. Yeah. He says, God gave me a mission field I would have never found without cancer. He says, the number of people I've been able to help, God was trying to be generous and give him a mission field that would bring him great joy. Yeah. And it took cancer to get it. Wow. Now, I don't understand that makeup in the mind of God. Yeah. But we won't know this side of heaven. How many people are now in heaven because Ed had cancer?
That's so cool.
God longs to be gracious. He was gracious and helped him through cancer. And he was compassionate by giving him eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart for people around him.
Wow, that's so cool. I'll say this really quick because that reminded me of another story that one of our one of our members here at Battle Creek shared years ago as a dad and was talking about taking I think it was his son to swim lessons. And, if you have a little kid and you've ever taken him to swim lessons, you toss them in the deep end and they flail around for a while. And he was saying it took everything inside of me not to jump in that water and take my son out of that because he was scared. He didn't know what he was doing. He was, all the things. He was like, but I had to know, I had to tell myself, this is better for him. He will learn skills that if there is something bad or scary that happens in the future, he will have skills to deal with it. Yeah. And I just think that's such a cool picture of who God is, that there are some times when he lets me flail and I would be like, I would like to be saved from this. Thank you. But he knows better than I, to go back to that perspective of God. And he knows that I am building skill sets that will allow me to walk through harder things for his glory later down the road.
Absolutely.
Anyway, very cool.
I think it's good. When you work out, you have to tear your muscles down to build them up.
Yeah.
And I think you have to tear your faith down. God, he won't strip our faith down, but he will test it and try it so that it is, what is it? Tested by fire. Yeah. The impurities come to the top. Yeah. And those are wiped away. And so eventually, you may have doubts one time, but the next time, no, he was faithful last time. He'll be faithful again. And the next time it is, I can't wait to see how he's faithful. Yeah. And then the next time it is, y'all come watch this. Look what God's going to do.
Buckle in, everybody.
Buckle in. God's going to show off. Yeah. So, well, listen, you mentioned, I know you have it here. You can hold it up. Sorry,
my baby.
Tell us a little bit more about the book, where people can get it. Yeah. And just maybe a little bit how it came to be, and how you said this is your baby. Sure. There was some time with it being birthed in your head, and
absolutely. So, yes, this sweet little one right here, she's precious to my heart. It came to be that I was given the opportunity to write a Bible study through a publishing company, and I had the chance to pick whatever topic, which sounds awesome, but it's also really terrifying because you're like, there's so many things you could talk about, and why God led me to the fear of God, which is one of the biggest theological concepts you could ever imagine. And then I have to figure out how to write about that to, teenagers. It's a little wild. But I just learned so much through that process as somebody who has battled a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety rooted in fear my whole life. That's been a pretty crippling part of my story, but also a beautiful part of God's redemption and how he brings healing and hope. And so as I've learned what it means to fear God, and really what fearing God means is setting your mind's attention and your heart's affection on his character so that you might honor, delight in, and obey him above all else. Yeah. And when that is our mind's attention, our heart's affection, when we are controlled by the fear of God, we don't have to be controlled by the fear of the unknown or the fear of scarcity, like we talked about today, or the fear of man, because I am controlled by the very fear I was designed to be controlled by in the first place. And that is the fear, the awe, the reverence, the delight of my Creator God. And so that was kind of a little bit of what I got to learn through the journey of it. I thought at the end of this, we were going to come out knowing how to be fearless. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's not the point. The point is to fear God, to be full of fear, but unafraid of all the others. So anyway, it's been a great journey.
Yeah. So just real quick in closing, what are maybe some practical steps that people can take to help them develop a healthy and holy fear, regardless of life circumstances?
Yeah. I think the greatest way that you can learn to fear God is to spend time with him. And I know that can feel like a really simple concept, but part of the fear of God is understanding his characteristics, is understanding his character, his qualities, and we can't know that apart from how he revealed himself in his word. We can see how he revealed himself in creation. We can watch his image be displayed in other people, but the one thing that never fails to display the goodness and character of God is his word. And so the more that we spend time reading his word, spending time allowing the Holy Spirit to teach us about the character of God, the easier it is to recognize the lies of fear and replace them with the truth of who God is as our all-knowing God, as the God who is the hope of our lives, as the God who is worthy of our attention and affection, as our generous God, like we got to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it's so good. I tell people all the time, we as Christians, as preaching, we all like to say, hey, the difference between heaven and hell is 18 inches. It's between here and here. But really, what I heard you saying there is you need to know God here. You need to know about him.
Yeah.
If you don't know about him, you can't experience him. And if you don't experience God, you can't go out and emulate him.
Yeah.
So it is reading about him, his attributes, the truths about God, the unchanging truths about God, and getting to know those in your head, letting them trickle down into your heart so that when things come, you have those anchors to attach to, that firm foundation. And so, well, thank you for being with us today. And,
it's such a
for
joy.
your book. And thanks for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
And for preaching on Sunday. Always appreciate whenever you get up and share. You always do such a great job. And,
thank you.
And love to have you back again soon.
I hope so. That'd be so fun.
All right. Down below, there'll be some questions for you to answer to dive deeper into how to grow a holy fear, how to fight with fear.